Hello everybody and welcome to That's Football. Chelsea are in a financial mess and in big trouble. This is coming in from financial experts as financial fair play bites down again. You know what? I think in the past, whether Chelsea were going to be in trouble or not, you could probably ride it out. You look at Man City, you look at other clubs, but with what's happened with Everton and Nottingham Forest, you can't just find a way to, a little way to get out of it now. And Chelsea are heading for big trouble. Basically, they've spent too much, and experts are saying they're going to really struggle to not go over their limits of financial fair play and find themselves getting points deduction as well. No European football, no decent European football. They almost need to be sponsored by Tesco because every little helps. I wouldn't be surprised if you're walking past Stamford Bridge later, chuck them a fiver, it will help. They need money and they need it now. These are the words of financial expert Rob Wilson, who said, essentially, I've never seen a set of accounts with losses that big in football. You can go back to 2011 when Man City had wages to turnover ratio of 198%. That's probably the only comparison I can get. Look, Chelsea are looking at major punishment if they don't turn this situation around. Now, Chelsea is saying, we're confident that we're going to comply. But essentially what this comes down to, and some people say this won't even be enough. They need to sell £100 million worth of players by the end of June. That can get pushed back to the end of July in mitigating circumstances. But Everton fans will tell you, what are Chelsea's mitigating circumstances here? Everton were building a new stadium. Chelsea have got, over £1 billion of expenditure that everybody couldn't believe they did. That's not mitigating. That is an investment company coming in and doing what investment companies tend to do. Chuck a load of money early on and then make their money later on. But this is football. This is financial fair play regulations. Chelsea have spent a ridiculous amount of money. Chelsea fans are expecting them to go and buy Osimhen and other players in the summer. And if they're going to do it, they may as well get Harry Potter in because they need some sort of magic to be done on their account, which is why Conor Gallagher's constantly being mentioned as being sold because he's a homegrown player. It's pure profit of 50 million quid. But the big problem Chelsea have got is that I'm talking about it, you're talking about it, everybody's talking about it. Chelsea need to sell £100 million of players by the end of June, everybody. Who's going to walk along and go, we'll give you a fair price? They're in trouble. And the only money is Saudi Arabia or the Premier League. Well, Premier League clubs aren't stupid. Oh, let's get queuing up to help out Chelsea so that they can survive and buy more players. I mean, I don't know the policy. I'd love to know what Chelsea fans genuinely think because we've seen Forest fans moaning about the way the club dealt with it. We've seen Everton fans. Some of them are unhappy with the club. Some of them are unhappy with the Premier League. Where do you stand as a Chelsea fan, both a Chelsea fan and as an outsider? Because I look at it and I go, well, who suffers again? It's the fans. Personally, I would quite like to see Victor Osimhen in a Chelsea shirt next season. I'd quite like to see him in the Premier League. Man United aren't going to sign him. So I'd like to see him in the Premier League. And I'd rather he was at Chelsea than Arsenal, who, are already up there. So I'd like to see that deal. I've got no problem with good players coming into the Premier League and going to other clubs if my club can't buy them. So I'd like to see Chelsea doing that. But how are they going to do that? And I remember saying this at the time. What Chelsea did with all that spending was great if those players work. That £1 billion, if you spend it on 10 really good players, you're set up for the next 5 to 10 years. But they didn't. They spent £1 billion. They didn't even buy a bloody striker of any use. I don't think these Chelsea players that they've bought are going to be the players that suddenly click and make them a team that competes with a Man City or an Arsenal or even a Liverpool. So I think the future is bleak for Chelsea. And when you're talking constantly about selling Conor Gallagher to balance the books, that is incredible. Because for me, Conor Gallagher with Cole Palmer is one of the 2 or 3 best players for Chelsea this season. I'd take him at Man United in a heartbeat. I think he'd be a good signing for Liverpool. Arsenal, I think he'd be a very good signing. So how is that sustainability as a football club that you're going to sell one of your best players to survive? It's like being on a boat and you're sinking, so you're throwing off things of value. Not necessarily the things that you want to throw off, but the big grand piano that weighs a bit, get rid of that. It's not the way to run a football club. I think this is going to be really interesting. We've spoken about Forest the other day. We've spoken about Everton. I think many of us agree that we want financial fair play to have teeth. But there will be casualties. And I think Chelsea are one to keep an eye on because, look, not my words, the words of financial experts. What they're saying is that basically they're in big trouble. I've never seen a set of financial club statements quite like it. It's as bad as it looks. I've checked with them with a colleague, and neither of us know how they're going to pass financial sustainability regulations if they play in Europe or in the Premier League next year. I'm not sure how they're going to get out of it either. It might be mitigation because of the war, given the sanctions placed on Abramovich and the takeover, but their transfer receipts from Bowley and Clear Lake Capital are 1.119 billion. Even though they've split over 2 sets of accounts, it's insane. They need to sell 100 million of playing talent before the 30th of June. That's looking like a conservative figure at the moment as well. Obviously, the wages play a major part in it as well, and they amount to 400 million, so they need to bring that down as well. There's a huge amount of work to do, and I don't understand why they felt they were able to sign the checks off given the regulatory practices that we've seen with the PSR and the FFP. So, look, everybody knows Chelsea are in this situation as well. Everybody knows they need to sell. I'd be worried. I would be worried. I know Man City fans act like 115 is for the future, but that future will come quicker than they think. It's not the future for Everton and Forest because their regulatory breaches are quite, small, so they can get dealt with quickly. Chelsea are going to be monitored because a lot of clubs weren't happy with what Chelsea did, when they were just going round, buy, spread it out over a few years. They found a gap in the market. I think they're going to get, I think this summer for Chelsea is going to be really interesting to watch. And I think, you know what? I'm going to say this. I think they'll get out of it. I think they'll find a way out of it, but I think it will be chaotic. I wouldn't be surprised if they did sign an Osman, but on the way to that, they're selling all sorts of... I've heard that they might sell Reece James. Who's going to buy Reece James with the injury record? He's broken. I think Reece James as a right back is fantastic. I wouldn't go anywhere near him, not even for 20 million. I'd go, I'd rather go and get Frimpong or get, Trippier's available from Newcastle in his early 30s. I'd rather do that because I just wouldn't trust that Reece James would stay fit. Good player, wouldn't stay. Broha, 50 million quid, are you having a fucking laugh? Conor Gallagher is the only player that they've got. Hall at Chelsea, at Newcastle, they'll probably get a bit of money there. But, look, sell to buy as well. And that's problematic in itself. What are Chelsea going to be saying to Osman? Can you wait until late July? We'll buy you then when we've raised the money. Look, I'm thinking about United's summer. I'm sure other clubs are thinking about their summer. But you know how it works. You've got to be working now. You've got to be getting to work now because there's competition out there. Chelsea... they're going to have to say players, wait a minute. We will get there. You just wait for us. And if I'm a player, I'm going, how are you getting there, though? Who are you selling to get there? Because I'm not coming into a club where you buy me, but you've sold 2 or 3 really good players as well. And also, this happens again next year for Chelsea. Because of the expenditure that they've put out there, this isn't a one-off. They have to comply every year. I think that, there's a very big chance that this time next year, they've got to sell another load of players. They've never gone to that stadium like Arsenal, so that they've got a small stadium. That's not a revenue that they can bring in. They're not in Europe, or if they're in Europe, it's going to be at best Europa League. It's certainly not going to be the Champions League. So, and that would have been very lucrative for them. That'll be another loss in a year's time because they won't have Champions League money for 2 years. It is a panic station for Chelsea. Get your comments in below. Let us know what you think. I'll speak to you on the next one.